Hi, it's Sean, and you're listening to The 3-Month Vacation. I don't watch much television, but I still subscribe to Apple TV. I also subscribe to Netflix and Beamer Film. Of course, I watch lots of YouTube. But I keep going back to Apple TV. So why do I do that? The answer doesn't lie in my behavior alone, but it drives the behavior of tens of thousands, possibly millions of viewers. They subscribe, or rather resubscribe, not because they want to get back to Apple TV. Instead, they're eager to watch just one series. And the name of the series is Slow Horses. This singular series, bumps up subscriptions, and it pulls back clients like me who've left a long time ago. Slow Horses pulls back people because it is utterly unique. But what exactly is uniqueness? Like any idea, it's difficult to pin down. We tend to think of it as an inherent quality, as if products or services are born unique, but they're not. Almost always, uniqueness has to be invented. Invention is a costly process. How are you supposed to guess what your clients are thinking? Usually, if you ask them, you'll get nowhere. That's because people don't know what they want. They don't know what they want. What they do know is what annoys them. They'll complain endlessly. And if you listen closely when they're grumpy, you'll find that they're handing you clues about what to fix or how to stand out. Grumpiness, it seems, is one of the smarter ways to create uniqueness. And this is where the whole factor of Slow Horses comes into play. Almost anyone can write a good story or a teleseries, but the great ones are where the characters come alive. For me, I need a series where I can recognize my own family. And in Slow Horses, there are characters, just like in my family, that work with each other, but also against one another. And this messy, interlocking dynamic, it makes the story come alive. Slow Horses gives me that. It gave me that. It wasn't Apple TV that's solving my problem. It is Slow Horses. It is giving me the entertainment that I crave. It is solving my grumpiness of just having to go through series after series or movies after movies that aren't so good. And this is the essence of uniqueness. It is born from listening to frustration and then solving it in a way that others don't. When we step into a modern marketplace, we're swamped with dozens, sometimes thousands of options. The uniqueness or grumpiness gets buried under pricing and features and even more features. But they ignore one issue. What turns people into grumps? Let's take, for examples, 3 products and 1 service. And let's start with pies. One of New Zealand's national comfort food is a pie. Most Kiwis grow up eating meat pies at school, sporting events, or family gatherings. Yes, there are vegetable pies too, but classic fillings in the pies are usually mince and cheese, steak and cheese, chicken, mushroom, or bacon. And there's egg too. At lunchtime, it's not uncommon to stop for a pie. Yet many Kiwis are getting grumpy about their pies. And I asked this question to owner Louis Maza, who is from Roller Pies. I said, why are people getting grumpy? And he said, well, they're not like they used to be. Pies made in New Zealand often have filler. They're not made with good ingredients. And the list goes on. Too generic taste, mass-produced stuff, or rubbery pastry. But what is the greatest gripe of all? What is the thing that annoys the people the most? It's called butter. Pies used to be made with a generous helping of butter. And Roller's pies, they're made with 50% butter. Now you think that a statement like that would deter a diet-conscious public, and yet it does exactly the opposite. Rollers has existed just since 2024. In barely a year, they've got 4 outlets on the go. Apparently, people felt grumpy enough to want the original buttery version of the pie. Yes, they're also grumpy about the pastry, about having to deal with fillers and terrible taste, but the butter reminds them of the past. Their biggest grumble may not even be about the butter content, but how things seemed better in the past. Grumpiness can apply to a quick $12 purchase, but it plays an identical role in a $3 million car. So here's a question. If you have endless amounts of money, why should you be grumpy? I'll tell you why. It's because your neighbor who lives in their mansion across the road, well, he also happens to be filthy rich. Somehow, you want to demonstrate that you are richer. To do so, you have to buy a car where you can talk about the paintwork. Huh? Paintwork? Yes, the Lamborghini Revuelto Opera Unica sells for over $3 million. At first glance, it's just another hypercar. But the paintwork tells a different story. It has a two-tone fading effect that took 470 hours of hand painting using a spatula, and then another 85 hours spent painting the interior. There's no machine spray painting this car. It's just painstaking human attention that turns engineering into art. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you can get a cheaper version of this very same car for a mere $608,000. You're getting what I'm saying, right? The same model of the car. One is $608,000, the other is $3 million. What separates the two? The paintwork. What makes it unique is the client's grumpiness. When you realize why they're grumbling, you can increase the value several-fold merely by something like paint. That's because you know that it's not the paint that you're selling. Just like the pies sold the wholesomeness of the past, the paintwork is signaling, I'm richer than you. And that's what makes it unique. However, sometimes the whole world is grumpy about the same issue, and nobody seems to want to solve it. Before I moved to New Zealand, I couldn't remember seeing a range hood in any home. Range hoods are extractor fans. You cook, they sit above your stovetop, and they suck out the smoke, the steam, and especially the cooking odors from your kitchen. Well, I grew up in India, and smoke and steam and the aroma of food, that's not a negative, that's a plus. Not so in New Zealand. Almost every kitchen in this country has a range hood, and so reluctantly, I'm using it as well. The problem with range hoods is that you can barely have a conversation. At a high setting, it is about 70 to 80 decibels, which is similar to a vacuum cleaner. In order to listen to music or even podcasts, I have to have my noise-canceling headphones. Otherwise, I hear nothing. Sometimes my wife, Renuka, could be sitting 4 feet away, and I have to turn the range hood low or off just to hear what she's saying. And then you have the Schwengen silent range hoods, and they solve this problem in a very clever way. The range hoods are mounted outside the house, and suddenly the kitchen becomes a quiet social space again. The problem wasn't how do we make a better fan, but rather how do we stop the noise? Interesting, isn't it? People are continuing to grumble about noisy range hoods, but most manufacturers continue to turn out range hoods with features and benefits, but they don't tackle the main problem, the main point of contention. So far, we've only looked at products, pies, range hoods, cars. But what about services or training? And that's what we do at Psychotactics. Our marketing business started in the year 2000. Despite being around for over 25 years, we at Psychotactics have stayed below the radar. You don't find us advertising, doing any mega launches, and we have many books, but none of them are on any bestseller list. Theoretically, this is a formula for hardship, if not for a lot of uncertainty. Yet we've thrived for decades because one of the main sources of our income is the courses that we do every year. It doesn't matter whether you're doing an article writing, storytelling, copywriting, or a cartooning course. At the very core, we're dealing with a grumpy audience. So what are they upset about? Most online courses feel cold and disconnected. You log in, you watch a few videos, and you never hear from your instructor again. Or maybe you just hear from them once a week. At Psychotactics, the focus isn't on videos or lectures, but it is on conversation and feedback. You're not left alone. You post your work, you get critiques, often within minutes. And then you start to learn from others. The grumble was online learning is isolating. And people understand this problem, so they say, hey, we're having this cohort group. And just putting in a phrase, another catchphrase, that's not going to do it. Because everybody on the course still feels quite alone. On a Psychotactics course, this problem is solved very elegantly. You not only get to know the people on the course, but you also become great friends. You come to rely not on the teacher, but on the group. On days when you don't feel like showing up, you do so because of your colleagues on the course. On other days, when you're running at full steam, you're all energized, you also want to show up to bolster the spirits of your group. You want to show them what you've done. And people learn from each other's mistakes. They discover how to solve the same problem in a range of ways. But is it a grumble? Yes, because clients don't always know what they want, but they know what they don't want. And the solid proof of this grumpiness doesn't show up in clients' comments, but instead in their behavior. Once people get to know each other, they tend to reach the end of the course. They acquire that skill. But where do you get most of the dropouts? It's in the first or second week. And I want you to think about that phenomenon for a minute. The first week is when people are most eager to learn. They signed up, they spent a few $1,000s. So why do they bail out right at the start? The reason why they do so is because they haven't formed bonds with each other. As a beginner, you're hopeless at evaluating yourself and the work of others. You look around you, you see somebody doing better work or what you think is better work, and then you quietly leave. But it's much harder to leave once you realize that everyone in their group wants you around. They need you, and you, in turn, need them. The uniqueness becomes the effort of the group. Or, as an African proverb says, if you want to go quickly, go alone. If you want to go far, go with a group. People are constantly looking for a group of friends. Smart, interesting people, a bit like them, but also opposites of each other. This uniqueness isn't the reason why people join a Psychotactics course, but it's the primary reason why they come back. We also know this fact to be true because if they join another course within Psychotactics and the group isn't as vibrant as the one that they'd experienced, then the clients complain. Our job is to pay attention to this grumpiness and to make sure that they're in a good group, that they never feel alone, that all of their needs are taken care of and they don't feel this factor of loneliness. Grumpy people are everywhere, whether it's a silent kitchen, a pie, a hand-painted car, a spy series full of flawed characters, or a course where you feel connected with everybody and therefore reach the end of the course and get the skill. All of these start off with solving some sort of grumpiness. So if you want to find uniqueness, start listening to grumpy people. And that brings us to the end of this podcast. Let's find out what's happening in Psychotactics land. We're going to start up a protege course, and it's probably going to start in February, and it'll be 6 months long. Is it going to last for 6 months? No, because we also take a 3-month vacation. This podcast is called the 3-month vacation, and there will be breaks because usually when you're learning something and you're putting something into some of your marketing strategy, you're going to have to take some time to do it. So we're not going to rush through it. It's probably going to be 6 months long, but 6 months that take 3/4 of the year, if you know what I mean. So we'd start in February to March, March to April. We'll take a month's break. We'll come back 2-3 months, take another break, and we'll go from there. The details have yet to be ironed out. But this is a marketing strategy and consulting. So expect that it's going to cost you as much as consulting. How much is it going to cost? You're going to find out. But there is an early bird offer that we will announce, not right now, but soon enough. And that will save you a sizable chunk of dollars. So the Protégé course is going to be next year. You'll hear more from us. I know I've been teasing you for so long. No details yet. That's because I haven't written the sales page. But I will do that. And you can consider this part to be the pre-sale, where it's this little teaser that's in front of you for a while. Partly because of procrastination, but also a teaser. I'll say bye for now, and thanks for listening. See you in 5000 BC. Bye-bye. Still listening? I was telling Renuka about how grumpiness leads to uniqueness. And usually she's very sleepy in the morning, but she said, I've been grumpy for this entire week and it hasn't led to any uniqueness. Well, I hope that made you laugh because it made me laugh. It made her laugh. All grumpiness does not lead to uniqueness, apparently. So there you go. Bye-bye.